one reason why Toastmasters has existed for the past 99 years, and this year we are going to complete 100 years very soon, is because of the eclectic meeting structure and the conditions or the elements that we have in a meeting that make it a wholesome experience for all of us to learn, whether we're a beginner or a pro. For the next 40 minutes that I have, what I have in thought is not just specifically for the contest per se, but as humans, and not just for speeches. As humans, how can we become better at evaluating and meet the purpose of what evaluation is made for? Because we are short of time, I might be jumping the gun, but I just hope that I do not miss out on critical points which are important for all of us to learn. With that, let me begin with the story. As a child, I had two teachers. One who used to always write in the book, good, bad. For every assignment or every homework that I used to do, she used to put the signature and write good or bad. And then there was one teacher who never wrote these words. She always wrote some descriptive element of the idea on what was being evaluated. She wrote, he's good at multiplication, but he does silly mistakes. He's good in this element, but I think if he focuses more on building this, it will be better. How many of you had the first kind of teachers? Most of us? Yes. How many of you had the second kind of teachers? But largely it is the first kind. And why? I'm sharing these two parts of the story is because when it comes to evaluation, when it comes to helping others do what they're doing better, speeches, the work that they're doing, in your spouse, in your relationships, in your office, in your teams, wherever you're doing something with regard to sharing some feedback to someone. Shweta, can I have the phone, please? Let me read. I'm not going to take the names or for whom it was, but you all were requested to share feedback to the speakers today. And some of the feedback that we have got, what you liked about the speech, wow, I loved it. Good real story. Emotion. Content. Good speaker. Confidence. I'm not reading the ones which are actually the second kind of features. But there are those kinds of features because that will be long. And the people, when they are written, what can be done better? Nothing. Nothing. Nothing, I guess. When I look at a few comments like this, what I wonder is, have you really given a feedback to the speaker? Have you really looked at the speaker, evaluated him, not as an evaluator per se, but when you're writing something? I have been a speaker for the past 18 years, and I've started to get tired of the word good. How was the session? Good. Excellent. What can be done better? Nothing. This is how most of us, I don't know what the reason for why you do this, but there's a reason to it. We'll come to it. Today's session is going to be divided into three segments, like we have called it evaluation, speech, contest. I'm going to first talk about evaluation, then about the speech about the evaluation, and finally just touch upon the contest part of it, because frankly from my observation, I'm less of a contest guy and more of a person who can actually give a good evaluation to someone, which is helpful. And I believe you do that right, do that well. Contest is just an extension of what you're going to do, just a bit of focus on what you need to cover while you are delivering a speech in contest. So the content is going to be this. Let's get into the evaluation. I'm sorry, I'll keep the first and foremost question: what is evaluation? What is evaluation? A few quick responses. Good. It's assessment. It's an assessment. It's an assessment. Interesting. What is evaluation? So go ahead.
Feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Feedback.
Observing.
Observations.
Improvement.
Improvement.
What went right and what did not go right.
What went right and what did not. I'll stop you here because I'll have an answer from you. Precisely what evaluation is. It's an observation. It's your perspective, your experience. As I come into this session, I'll talk about why it is not the audience's experience. It is your experience of what you take out from that speech. That is your perspective. Don't become the audience. You are yourself. And why should you evaluate? Why should you evaluate? Why should you evaluate is my question.
To learn, to make others.
To make others better, okay? Or to tell them what was good. Abu,
Yes, we all can contribute. We all have that unique contribution.
we all have the unique contribution.
To evaluate,
Analytical skills.
Improve analytical skills. Interesting.
by evaluating, so we can also learn.
Interesting. Why you is because it's not just about, it is largely about the other person and how it will be done better. But in the process of doing that, you don't go about reinventing the wheel for yourself. When you see that this person is rigid or stuck to this place and you are not finding it good, and you say, you could have done this. While I saw Postmaster Lakshmi evaluating saying that the way she was doing it, she could as well take in the point and tell the good points here and the areas of improvement here. When we talked about the idea of why purposeful movement makes a difference, you could as well learn from it and become better for yourself too. What's the difference between evaluating and judging? Evaluation?
Positive and negative criticism.
No, if I am a contest winner, nobody gave me a negative or I was the best negative criticism.
But judging generally is negative criticism.
Okay, I'll take that one. Sir?
Judging does not require evaluation. To judge people does not require any skill. Evaluation requires skill.
We had a training on how to judge. We have actually skills on how we can be a better judge. Why? The pointers with regard to criticism. I know the word judging has been used. Yes, Shazia.
Yeah, so I think how judging is different. You shouldn't be judgmental saying in evaluation where you are saying you are like this, you are like that, where you are judging a person because there's always scope of improvement where they can learn and improve. That's how it's different.
Wonderful. You've taken out my point. Yes.
Judgment we give on a particular parameters, you are giving point or something to them because there are other people also who are being compared. Valuation is for the improvement.
Okay. The two focus. One is where the speaker is. When it comes to judging, from what I have observed, judging is about passing a verdict. Judging is a statement. While often we use judging as a negative word, it need not be. It need not be, because ultimately the people who are judging in a contest are not the villains. They are there for a purpose, and they are there to pass a verdict who is 1, 2 or 3, or based on my perspective 1, 2, 3 on this ballot. It's a ballot. While Pragya mentioned it is on the parameters, it could also be that you are judging based on your own parameters of what you like. Suppose you are from a rural background. Some Shashi Tharoor comes here and talks. Wow! To begin with, kya baat hai. Second one will be, kya baat hai. And after 3 days, when you think of what he taught to you, kya baat hai. The difference is, based on your own metric, you are evaluating or judging them on how is he good or bad. While evaluation per se is with the other person in the center focus, while we are sharing what can be done better, what you like. Again, it's your perspective, but with an intention that yours is only one perspective. Yours is only one perspective, and it is not definitive that this is the ultimate thing for you of what you're trying to pass. So fundamentally, in public speaking, while somebody is delivering a speech here, when you talk of evaluation, the first and foremost thing that we need to understand is that public speaking is this much. When you're talking of an icebreaker speech, it has an objective. While Sriveni is delivering a L1P2A, it has an objective. The idea is not to judge the speech in itself, but to give feedback to her, with which she will come back to the stage, learning from that feedback. If you look at totality, what we often end up is, the reason why we say good, bad, confidence, or very skewed elements of our evaluation is because we look at things in totality. Either they are white or they are black. But when it comes to evaluation, that is what the need of the hour is. You have to look at anything into pieces. And the whole is what makes, is a mix of these pieces. When you're evaluating, this is what you need to do. In a speech, what are you evaluating? You're evaluating the content, you're evaluating the structure or the organizing of how the speech is, and you're evaluating the delivery. These are three parts of a speech. Do we evaluate the speech or do we evaluate the speaker?
Speech.
Given by speaker.
Actually, both.
Speech.
Gestures,
Speaker.
speech.
Non-verbal communication.
Non-verbal speaker.
That is still what the speech.
Speech.
Speech is
Why the speaker?
Huh?
How are you judging the speaker?
Judging or evaluating? We should
Evaluating. Okay, answer. Evaluating the
So
speaker.
because that's what the speaker is about, right? If how he's moving on the stage, how he's using voice tonality, that's not about the
But what is he doing it for?
speech.
What is he doing it for? Imagine while giving a speech, I'm talking in a baby's voice. Is it that you're judging me as a baby or my role as a speaker? Role for that speech, and how am I doing that?
It's difficult to separate.
It's difficult to separate, but the idea is a speaker is a whole body of knowledge or a personality in himself, while a speech is one element that he's bringing to the fore for you. I could have a bad day and I could mess up here, but that does not make me a bad person or a good for nothing person. So when you're evaluating, always remember you're evaluating the speech. And these elements, I definitely understand, me as a personality will definitely come to the fore. But you are still evaluating just the speech and how you came into this speech for the 7 minutes. So you're evaluating the speech. We do not have the capacity, none of us have the capacity to understand or know someone's personality or someone as a speaker, as a human. You cannot know someone for 7 minutes and tell that this is what you're doing. So you always focus on the speech and how it has been delivered. The focus is always on the speech. Let's move forward. At the macro level, how do you evaluate? How do you evaluate at the macro level? Because I've told it's your perspective, your idea, your knowledge. The fundamental pillars is what you heard. What is the story? What is the content? What is the example? What is it that you heard logically from the speaker in the speech? What you felt? How did it resonate with you? Did Tutik's girlfriend example bring to the fore your girlfriend? Or Sriveri's injury example of emotional turmoil or emotional pain bring you pain or connected with you? What is it and how is it that the speaker's speech touched you? And finally, what you saw, the entire picturization that you saw for that 7 minutes of how it was delivered. So these are fundamental elements of how a speaker connects with you at the macro level. And that is where most often, at the end of it, our feelings are very fluid in nature. At the end of it, you say, good experience. While not looking at the parts and the individual elements, whether Shiveri's hand was moving here or not, whether Krutik was rigid or not. No, it doesn't matter. At the macro level, this is how we look at it. And use these as pillars to evaluate as you progress in evaluating the speech. If you look at it, I was always amazed as a child to look at a ray of lights which we see in marriages or functions, the dancing lights.
Yeah.
Have you ever observed? You always feel, okay, this is good or it's not working. But if you actually go on to see the science behind it of what works in an evaluation is not the totality. But if I ignore all those things and I just show you this, what is happening here?
On and off.
It's just blinking. It's not a show. But what makes the entire speech is the show in itself. And there could be elements in the speech which are doing their part or they are not doing their part. Something which is keeping you attracted here or in the show, or something which is distracting you from the show. Look at the points in the depth of what you need to evaluate. Now let's get to the what or how do you observe in a speech. The fundamental content, whatever was shared, the ideas, the narrative, the examples, the statistics, whatever was shared with regard to the content part of it is what you try to assess for yourself. That I found just logical. Like Toastmaster Lakshmi had mentioned, when it comes to evaluating Sriveri's speech, I like the point where you said it changed. I was a better person. I learned these 3 principles. But she felt, how can you move from complete pain to suddenly everything being solved? The reality is not that. It never happens in that way. It's not just one moment and your life is different. One moment can be an idea or an insight that you've got, but the process of transformation is long given, which you have not shown, is what Toastmaster Lakshmi is mentioning in Srivedi's speech. So look at how, what is connecting with you, what feels logical. Icebreaker speech, suddenly, if as an example, Pratik did not talk about, I'm sorry, I did not attend the speech, so I might be wrong here. If he did not mention about his college life or some specific interest that he has, the audience, I felt something missing. I know about the girlfriend, but I don't know what he's studying. Or I'm not sure if those are logically connected. If you find something missing in the content part of it, the logical flow, this does not feel or make sense to me. So look at how or what elements in the speech felt right to you, note them down, and what felt missing in the content part. You could have elements of relatability. I had people, a man delivering a speech about delivery, child delivery, to a room full of men. Does it connect or relate with the audience? Did you have that in mind? I had a whole set of jokes on marriage, husband and wife, delivered to a 10th grade students. They could maximum have it if they are seeing their parents complete. Does your speech have relatability? What points did you find the relation? In Srivedi's speech, it could be that emotional pain or emotional scar that you had, possibly that resonated, and that is where did it have elements which connected with you? Memorability, there are speeches which are created or have elements with which you can make the speech memorable. Recently, we have a lot of speeches where we have elements which become or stick to our mind. After 2 months also of that speech, you will still remember. Dhananjay? I see something. I don't know what it is.
After years,
This
it's
is
difficult.
8 years back speech and we still remember that. We still remember that. The recent contest winner, international speech contest, world championship winner, she had this line which is called,
Have you been there?
have you been there? Have you been there? So if you look at the speech and you actually soak in the speech, even after maybe 2 years, you'll still remember that line. Does it have a connect or an element which resonates or have a ringing bell to you after a long time? Do you see something which clicked with you? Maybe because you're evaluating right now, we may not be able to see, but was it constructed in a way in which it can hit and stay for longer? An example maybe. I had this speech in which I talked about Mother's Day celebration. After 20 days of my speech, someone sent me a message that today is Mother's Day or today is Father's Day, and I still remember your speech and what you told as a message. Connection of was an element in the speech connecting. Right? Authenticity. You can go and read a book and come and vomit it over. You can pick up a story from somewhere, some insight from somewhere, and you can present it here. But what really makes a speech connect with the audience and you being a speaker is the authenticity part of it. Where are you in the picture? It could be insight from the book, but where are you in the picture? Do you see the authentic side of the speaker in the speech? These are elements that you need to look at when you're talking of content. The structuring, the entire idea is we can have great 2-3 stories or 2-3 examples or insights, but the way the narrative was created, if you look at Srivedi's speech, the way she talked about the physical scar, then moved into the emotional scar, then moved into the solutions. If she talked about the solutions before talking about the emotional scar, would it click or would it resonate? Look at how a speech is being structured. I've seen icebreaker speech when suddenly somebody is talking of a person who's aged, is talking about his experience or his icebreaker speech, talking about his professional life, and then going and jumping back to, this is when I was born. Then talking about his girlfriend. And then he did not tell about the marriage part of it. Then he talked about his children, not sure with the same one or the other one. But the point is, look at the storyline and logical flow, because you, as a speaker, have written your speech. You as a speaker have lived your life. But the point is, as an audience, were you in sync with the speaker or not? It's again your perspective. It's your perspective of how you are looking at a speech. These are elements, that's what I'm saying. If you look at a speech in parts, you'll be able to see these elements, and that is where your evaluation comes into picture. In totality, like we said, great speech. But it is in these depths where the person can be given a feedback where he can grow and get better. Finally, the last part of it, where we're talking of the delivery part. We can have a great story, we can have a great structure. But if it falters in the way it has been delivered, do you feel like someone is mentioning, someone just pointed out that you have this habit, the audience felt it, that you're moving like this, it is distracting. Though you might not intend to, but you have this habit of doing like this, as an example, while you're speaking. Or you have a habit of standing very erect in delivering the speech like this. You have to look at elements which enable the speech to become much more deeper, or distracted the speech from becoming deeper. In one of the previous evaluations where I was the evaluator, I told the speaker that you showed something on the screen, and there's so much of text over there that I was looking at this text while you were speaking, and I missed on your point because I was reading the text there, as an example. So this is the point where you're talking of how delivery and how things which are using, are they in sync and helping you grow better. Please note, this is all about the anatomy of how you can look at the speech, the pillars on which you can analyze a speech. If you don't know these pillars, you'll be good or bad, because you'll be going with the macro feeling of, I like this. We talked about emotional pain. I have full of it. I'm full of it. Please tell me the answers. How do I solve this? Yeah, this is an answer. I'll try this out. Even if it is flawed, the speech is flawed in its delivery, because you have a connection, you will overlook all these things. And that's where you look at the enemy part. Now comes the mindset. Here is where we are talking of evaluator's thought or the mindset which works in us. When I started to speak, how many of you all started to give all your ears suddenly to me because of the introduction? I didn't speak a word. I did not add any value. If you didn't know me before also, I did not do anything before that made you give all your ears to me right then, except for the introduction which made it so. He's an evaluation champion. If I'm coming to evaluate the next time, I might not look at how good an evaluation I'm giving then, but I'll see, great evaluator. How many of you all are impressed with Shashi Tharoor's ideas?
Don't even understand.
Is he a good speaker?
Yes.
How is he a good speaker? Tell me one idea that you impressed with his idea. Sudha Murthy?
Yes.
Little bit.
Have you counted her ass and arms?
No.
Have you ever counted? Actually, I sat down to count. There were 23 in a 60-second speech. And she's a good speaker. Mrs. Murthy. And so, she has done. I'm not saying she has not done. And same with Shashi Tharoor also. He's an incredible person. But when he uses, his entire intent is to showcase the world the power of linguistic abilities, not the idea itself. Please, that also serves a purpose. There are a lot of people who have gained a lot of knowledge about language in itself. May not be the idea, but the language in itself. If his purpose is that, serves the purpose. Now, why I'm sharing this is because when you look at speeches, you all have biases. Last speech, last contest season, I feel if I am from a rural background where English is not that common, if he's speaking such good English, he's definitely a good speaker. Have you come across biases which you have, which are your own, resulting in you not focusing on the speech in itself? The speech, like I told you, kya baat hai? The speech in itself, if you're missing out on the content, the delivery, and because you have a flawed bias where you feel English means wise. We as individuals have our own biases. When you're evaluating a speech, put your biases apart. They will be driving you, but you need to understand that you are there for that one speech and the purpose it serves. Evaluate this. Focus on the speech, the objective it is given. I've seen people evaluating icebreaker speech and ripping it apart. In regard to, you didn't have this, you could have done this better, your voice was not great. I didn't understand this part of the story, there is a logical flow missing. There's a basic structure. When someone is given icebreaker, it's the idea is that they're coming on stage for the first time. That is the purpose. Even if you come here, stand here for 4 minutes, keep quiet and just go away, you still have to applaud for that person's courage to begin the journey. Not that you won't have areas of improvement, but you won't be ripping apart on the whole picture in itself. So look at how the objective is. For contest, please note, there's no objective. It's a generic speech for a wider audience. You're evaluating based on everything. But when it comes to project objectives, you are always specific. Evaluate the individual elements. Like I told you, every speech will have content, structuring, and delivery. Not totality, but the individual elements which help you in evaluating. This part is one of my favorite part where I've seen people or their personality overshadowing the evaluation itself. Please know, you are here to help the speaker. You are not here to build a brand for yourself. You are not here to tell your story. Recently I heard someone talking about Ronaldo and his prowess or his strength in football. And I saw the evaluator coming, you know what, I am a big fan of football. You don't know about Messi. You know how many records he has had? Look at he winning it for Argentina. Look at the strength that he has. And then after 1.5 minutes, he comes back to talk about the speech. Have elements where you're talking about your connection, but don't make that in a speech in itself. Do not talk about your idea or your thoughts about what he spoke. That's not the purpose of evaluation. You're there to evaluate his speech or her speech. That's the purpose that you need to focus on for you to give a good evaluation to the speaker. One of the funniest elements that I've seen is that when people look at, if I'm evaluating, I have to find flaws. What will I give in recommendations? So it becomes an error finding machine. What can I see? What can I see? What can I see? In the process of finding the error, you miss out on the good part. You miss out on actually experiencing the speech. In the process of trying to see what will be my recommendations. Please note, as an evaluator, it's your perspective, and I'm not saying you will be having a whitewash of the entire speech being good. But look at it from your perspective, what you felt, what you saw, and what you heard. And in that perspective, if you are not finding something which is flawed, then look at your experience and tell what could have been better. It can be good. In one of my evaluation contests where I saw the speaker speaking with confidence, the positive was the confidence and the ease with which he was moving on stage, strolling on stage. But the same thing in the negatives or the areas of improvement was, while you had great confidence, but that was just strolling. You could have used the same confidence to hold yourself and make your body movement purposeful. That would have enhanced with your confidence about on-stage comfort. That would have enhanced the message and how you are presenting your idea. Look at how you are observing. There can be speeches which you are baffled that you don't have anything in. In that case, look at your experiences of what can be done better. From the flaws to enhancing elements. And last one, don't be good to it. If you don't know how to speak it or tell it in a good way, tell it outside. That's okay. But in the process of being good to people, he is my friend, I cannot tell him outrightly how pathetic his speech was. Don't be good. Because by being good, you're creating a cushion for the speaker. Be ruthless, and yet, while you're presenting it here, the language that you use and the way you're saying something is where the difference lies. Of how you're telling that person that this is something which I did not understand what's the point of your speech. How you say it makes a difference. But the point is you have to say it. If you're being good, don't fall for it. My great friends will kill me today for me to rise to. My good friends will leave me today to kill me tomorrow. There's a difference in being evaluator. You have to look at what purpose are you serving with that evaluation. The skills, I'll just run through this. The skills that you need to become a better evaluator, and not only your knowledge about the parts of the speech and how you're able to see them. The more you dissect on individual elements of what makes a good speech, and you're able to see them and process them, analyze them, and get to recommendation on those individual elements is what makes you a good evaluator. Second, we have a habit of writing because we have to tell, we have to give a presentation, we have to give a speech on that. In the process of writing, we most often end up writing everything. I have a habit, just 2 tips here. Use a color pen and do not write everything verbatim. Do not write everything. This was a line spoken by the speaker, write it completely. While you're listening to the speaker, have a habit of scribbling and maybe use a color pen of what connected with you and what disconnected with you into color pens. Keep scribbling. Don't go on to analyzing at that point in time when the speech is going on, don't go on to decide that this is my recommendation, this is what I fixed. If you write in red, after the evaluation, in contest specifically, you get 5 minutes time. When you're moved from here to the room, then observe, scan through your notes, and then decide overall on a broader picture what would you say was good or what worked for the speech based on your scribbled notes and what could be better. Use that as a technique, and basic thing you can have your own techniques of dividing the paper into 4, good, bad, on the content, structuring, and the delivery part of it. Write those elements based on the anatomy that you have, the parts which you work, just scribble wherever you fit. That brings me to the speech part of it. More often than not, we forget that evaluation is a speech. This is where we forget. Evaluation is also a speech. Parts of the speech: opening, body, conclusion. While what we do, I like this thing about your speech: end, 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 end. It isn't presenting a structure to the audience of what are you doing here. It is ending up as a few scribbled notes here and there about what was good and what was bad. While you're not using it as an opportunity to present a speech. A speech will have its own opening, where I saw a few examples today. Jitters, right? Lakshmi used that. To just calm the nerves. While Ajit came on stage, was it connection or correction?
Correction.
I'm saying what he did. Just to lighten the audience connect and the speaker. Otherwise, it becomes a very serious business. So, what we are using to connect with the speaker and then get to the deeper level of how you are presenting your structure or you are going to present your recommendations and recommendations. The structure generally used is CRC, which is the sandwich technique: commendations, recommendations, and conclusion, or a challenge. Why do we have the commendations first? To encourage. Why first commendations?
Making them ready for the.
Making them ready. Acknowledge their positives. Have you observed how whenever we look or listen to recommendations or something which is not good, with a wall in front of us? We as a person, when we are looking or seeking feedback, what do we chase first? What was good? The reason is because we as humans have been wired in a way where we look at comfort, and that's where the commendations or the connect comes first, to break the wall which is there and to tell the speaker, I'm here to help. I'm not that boss who's going to just look at the negatives or what all didn't work out. The reason why we have commendations at the start is because to connect. And that's when the build or the connection of trust builds between the speaker and the evaluator, and how we are going to go about with telling the things that need to be done. The content of the speech: first, connect and comment. A large part of your evaluation is still about how the speaker can grow. It's not just about applauding, unless it is an icebreaker speech. It is not about just applauding. I've seen people applaud or talk about good things until 2.5 minutes. And then suddenly remember, I have to evaluate also, I have to do the recommendation. So look at how you are commenting. The fundamental idea is what, why, and the impact it had on you. What did you like? You like the confidence? I love it when people are comfortable on stage. And that's where it impacted me. The same way then coming on to recommendations, the most important thing here is how. You often tell, that becomes a critic. When you're talking of just telling that this didn't work out, you're not telling how or why it didn't work out and what can be done about it. That idea of presenting only the negative part becomes challenging. because it is not serving a purpose except for highlighting it to the speaker that this is something which went wrong. Look at how you can do it better, and that is where you give an input to the speaker to get things better. The closing, I've seen people, I remember one more point after they've started the closing.
Okay.
It is a speech. You're coming there prepared to deliver that structured speech. You're not rambling through your notes and suddenly finding something. I forgot this one more thing to add. Don't start anything new while you're towards the end of your closing of your speech. Simple tips and tricks. Because a large part is about commendations. By the time you see the green flag, remember you should already be at almost the end of your first recommendation. In a contest or in an evaluator, it is 2 to 3 minutes, and you see the green flag at 2 minutes. By the time you come to see the green flag, you should be very well closer to the end of your first recommendation. Do not make it minutes of the speech. Do not repeat verbatim what was said unless you are using it to demonstrate. What is to be done. As the speaker said, I like the way you are doing it. And you are talking about voice modulation, you want to demonstrate. You said, I like the way you are doing it. You could have said it, I like the way you were doing it. To demonstrate is a good way to show how things could have been better. Show the structuring. Tell that you're going to talk in this way. This is my structure. I'm going to share with you 3 commendations and 3 recommendations, then close. Show the structure, because it's a speech. Show the structure to the audience. I just saw as an example in Sushil's speech. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did not know where it's going to stop with regard to the commendations. I like this, I like this, I like this, I like this. This was good, this was better. And then suddenly, I don't know where or how, it turned into, okay, now I think for recommendations I talk about this. If you're not presenting a structure for the audience to keep in mind, then the audience will be very well lost. When is this going to get over and when I'm going to come to the recommendations part? And that's where showcasing a structure to your audience makes an entire difference in the speech part of what I'm talking about. Personalize and demonstrate. These are 2 things. Why I said evaluation is your perspective. Good speakers do that. Am I not good? I think you should have had this movement. What are you doing? You're passing a verdict. You are saying that you are the authority on what it should be, and you are telling it to the audience or to the speaker. Instead, in my opinion, I saw Ajit using that beautifully. In my opinion, this is something that you can avoid. Use words or phrases which will help in the person feeling that it is your opinion that you're going to share in the evaluation and not a verdict that you're passing. Personalize your language. From my experience, what I've seen is voice modulation. This is something that works. When you're giving your recommendations, look at how you're personalizing it rather than telling it that this is definitive. The technique can be definitive, but your suggestion is a bit fluid, with which it can work. And demonstrate, like I told, voice modulation or voice language. Demonstrate what you are doing. The skills that you need to build, focus on intent with which you're speaking. You are not a tutor, you are not a teacher. You are there to share your experience. And when you are sharing your experience, the intent changes all the time. You are not there to mentor that this is right or this is wrong. You are there to share your experience, and that word and the language that you start to use when it's a evaluator versus a judgment or a mentor, the wording and the language changes. In the contest, just highlighting this. If you look at the ballot for evaluation speech contest, this is what it contains. Analytical quantity. These are marks that are given by the judges to your evaluation, not your speech. To your evaluation, these are the marks that are given. The analytical quality, how much are you able to actually dissect and bisect the speech and then look at the elements of the speech. Your ability to analyze is where they get to know from the points that you're sharing. The recommendations part of it, where and is it helpful, purposeful, and specific of what you're suggesting to the speaker. Is it going to help him go back to the table and take something for the better for the next speech or not? The technique of how you are presenting, the voice and the style or the structuring of your speech is what is focused there. end the summation. Just a note about summation. A lot of us forget that there are 15 marks for the summary. Just saying in the end, in summary, all I would like to say, this was a good work on this. Directly gives you 15 marks. Not 15 completely, but depending on how you're covering. Because I saw all the 3 evaluators today, in summary they said, but they talked only about the good things, just to uplift the speaker. They forgot to mention about one word each of what needs to be changed. Once you focus on that thing, why I'm saying this is important because in a contest, 1, 2, 3 are very marginal difference when it comes to people's rating. Depending on if all are good, the difference is marginal. And this could take away entire difference of marginal plus points that you've got in the contest from you. So you could be the top here, but if you forgot to summarize or mention about the summary, then directly the differential of what your extra marks are, 4 marks, 5 marks, or 5 points or 6 points, will be completely gone from there. And that's a good 15 numbers. It's not like 5 where, okay, you can still manage. Some people have literally had a great evaluation speech, but they forgot on the summary. And someone who had an average one took away the contest, all because he just had this line. In summary, I would like to say this. Summary is that. Just last slide. You're there to help the speaker. Remember that your intent that you're presenting or participating in a contest, do not forget that ultimately you're there to help the speaker. If you do that well, the contest will take care of itself. Focus on the speaker and the evaluation. Pick up points that others would not have. Look at the uniqueness of your evaluation. Go beyond the obvious. I've seen every evaluation at the heart of it, most of it is all about general mention about body language and voice modulation. If you wish to win the contest, look at how your evaluation is different. That differentiation is what will spark the judges to look at you and consider you. Because at the end of it, if there are 8 contestants, by the time the 7th one comes, the judges already know. Then even if you are good at it, because 6 people have spoken the same things before, you could have a chance of losing out, though your evaluation could be good, though your speech could be good, and it could be impactful in it. To summarize, all I would say, start looking at evaluation. How many of you all go to meetings as an evaluator, thinking that this is the least preparation that will require, and let me take the evaluator, I'll just go sit in the meeting, I just have to listen to the speech and done. I've had good evaluators who have been in touch with me 6 days, 7 days before the evaluation, asked me to share my last 3 evaluations that I've got, asked me what do you want, this is objective, keep that aside. Do you want me to give feedback to you on any other element which will be offline? As a speaker, it's your responsibility. As an evaluator, it's your responsibility. Because ultimately, you come here to do something. If you're going back with being the same person, you are the same. How many of you believe practice makes a man perfect? It doesn't. It is only in practice is added or topped upon with the evaluator's inputs and what you're looking at adding in upgrading your speech, that is when it becomes better. That is when it becomes or inches towards perfection. If you keep repeating the same thing without the inputs of the evaluator, you'll be where you are even after 1 year from now. So start looking at this role of evaluator and the process of evaluation a lot more seriously than what we do currently. With that, any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, in many Toastmasters evaluations, I see that after the basic introduction with their opening, they always state that I will break my evaluation into 3 parts: commendation, recommendation. Like, is it good to say that, or do I let the flow be more obvious?
If you are presenting the structure, I have never had that. Because I feel in a 3-minute, 30-second evaluation, 3-minute evaluation, that line literally takes away at least 12 to 15 seconds. And that's a loss of time. Everyone knows you are here to evaluate. Why? Still to show the structure, what I have done is 3 things that I loved about your speech. Done. So they know I'm going to talk about the 3 good things. I don't need to say, I'll be evaluating your speech and sharing 3 recommendations, 3 commendations, and then the summary. 10 seconds gone. So after your first connect line, and once you launched yourself into the speech, I saw fantastic speech or the thing that are emotional injury. That is something that connected me. Thank you for a wonderful speech. 3 things that I loved about your speech. First, build a connect and applaud the speaker or uplift the speaker, and then launch yourself into the speech. Because it's far shorter time. It's not like you have the whole time for yourself to waste on listening. If you can make it crisp and maybe 3 to 5 seconds sing, go for it. Otherwise, I've always had this style for myself. It worked for me. That I've got or launched myself after I do not spend more than 15 seconds in the opening in the connect. And then for 1 minute I have the commentations on what all things went well and why it went well or where I connected. And then after 1 minute 15 seconds or 1 minute 30 seconds max, launch into the recommendation part. Because I've always used that green card which comes as a benchmark or a test for me that have I actually got into recommendations. Because if I still not got into recommendation, I'm not going to do justice for helping the speaker. I hope that helps.
One more question. That when I'm done with the commendations and I'm shifting to the recommendations, here again, do I like state it like generally like, so this was this I great, but this you can improve on. Do I go like that, or do I use like a transition thing? Like suppose you said that confidence, like it has a positive and a negative. Do I keep such a point as the end of my commendation so that I can flow into the recommendation, or do I state it outright?
No, it doesn't have to be that you will have the same point in both the things. It is just a point that I mentioned. But the point is, moving from commendations, there has to be one transition line where you can tell what are you trying to accomplish. Is it the point about what you missed, or is it about uplifting? One line of transition, maybe. Having said that, let me share with you 3 things which I felt could have been done differently to connect at a deeper level, or where I was disconnected from the idea. Just that one line of transition so that people again, like because it's a speech, one transition line to move from the good part. You can use your body language. I've always had this style where commendations, 3 things that I felt could have been done a bit differently. Transition with the line, with the body movement. You're using the elements to showcase the audience the structure of the speech. I hope that helps. But you have to have the transition. There are many lines to take you to the next level. I've seen some exceptional speakers, so I said, although not huge, I felt these are small elements which I would like to see differently, or I would feel you could work upon. Depending on the speaker, and you feel if it's a good speech, great speech, you can in the transition also applaud the speaker, uplift the speaker before you're going to hang the stone on. So depends on how big the recommendation is. If something was logically a big flaw, like for me, I'll tell you the example of the contest, the district contest which happened. I had an exceptional speaker, and people could have had a challenge of daring to tell that there was something missing in the speech. So I used something like a uplifting element before I told or launched my point. I said, you have something like a writer's curse. All accomplished writers have seen that they have or played the words so much that at the end of it, I had to ask myself, what is the point of the speech? What was the central message? I heard beautiful stories, but what was the point that you were leading to? So you see, in between uplifting and still telling what you are missing or what you found missing in that speech. So look at elements of how the wordplay is, makes the entire difference on how you're telling it to the person. Are you breaking the veil on them, or are you still telling you are good, but this is something I got disconnected. Good, this is something I disconnected. So that's a tonality and how you're presenting it and keeping the speaker in there.
One last thing.
Let me see if anyone has any other questions so that others we can take it offline also. I'm okay. If nobody has, I'll be open to. Any other questions, anyone? Yep, we can take it offline in the paucity of time. With that, thank you everyone. I'm asking for your feedback with this QR.